Dad disowned, ICU daughter. He snapped, "You're dead now." I cut all funds, lawyer called. He told me, "Their assets are frozen." Dad shrieked, "Impossible. What if the people you loved most, your own family, demanded you abandon your dying child?" Right there in the ICU. All for the sake of a party. That's the chilling ultimatum I faced, and it tore my world apart. The fluorescent hum of the pediatric ICU had become the soundtrack to my nightmare. For 36 agonizing hours, I'd been rooted to that hard plastic chair, my gaze fixed on Chloe's tiny chest, rising and falling with the ventilator's mechanical breath. Every gasp for air was a battle, not just for her life, but for my very soul, as my own family called, relentlessly demanding I walk away. Chloe, my beautiful, spirited 7-year-old, had collapsed at school just 3 days ago. Bacterial meningitis, the doctors had said. Touch and go, they warned. Those words echoed in my head like a death knell. I hadn't moved from that hard plastic chair. My body ached. My soul was raw. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing, a relentless vibration against my leg. I'd silenced it hours ago, but its screen still lit up every few minutes, a cruel distress beacon in the periphery of my vision. I knew who it was. My parents, my sister, Brooke. They'd been calling nonstop since yesterday afternoon. I'd sent one text in response. "Chloe is in critical condition. Can't talk now." Apparently, that wasn't good enough. A kind, weary nurse named Brenda came by to check Chloe's vitals. She'd been on shift since I arrived, a silent, steady presence. She had a daughter, too. She'd told me during one of those endless nights when Chloe's fever spiked, and I thought I might actually lose my mind. "You should try to eat something," Brenda murmured, adjusting in 4. "There's a cafeteria on the 2nd floor." I shook my head. The thought of leaving Chloe's side, even for 15 minutes, made my stomach clench with primal fear. Asterisk, what if something happened? What if she woke up and I wasn't there? Asterisk, my phone lit up again. This time, a text from Brooke. "Mom says you need to call Dad immediately. This is getting ridiculous. We need you here." My breath hitched, a cold knot forming in my stomach. I flipped the phone face down, forcing my gaze back to Chloe. Her blonde hair was matted against her forehead, dark circles stark beneath eyes that were usually so bright. She had my nose, but her father Leo's stubborn chin. Leo, who died in a car accident when Chloe was 3. My parents had never approved of Leo. He wasn't ambitious enough, not from the right kind of family. After he died, they'd swooped in, offering help that felt like a lifeline when I was drowning in grief and single parenthood. It took me years to realize it was actually a noose, slowly tightening. The phone buzzed again, then again. I picked it up. 7 new messages, all from various family members. I scrolled through them, a growing sense of unreality washing over me. My mother Helen's message read, "Your father is extremely upset. Brooke needs you. This is her special time." Brooke chimed in, "I can't believe you're doing this to me. Do you know how stressful wedding planning is?" Aunt Carol weighed in, "Your mother is beside herself. Can't someone else stay with Chloe?" And finally, from my father, "Arthur, call me now." I stared at that last message. My father, Arthur, was a man of absolute authority. His word was law. He built a commercial real estate empire from nothing, and he expected his family to fall in line with the same ruthless precision he demanded from his employees. Brooke, 2 years my junior, had always been his favorite. Beautiful, charming, effortlessly gliding through life. She'd married Ryan, a corporate lawyer from old money. My father had helped them buy their 4-bedroom suburban home. Brooke didn't work. Ryan made plenty. Her days were filled with yoga and elaborate dinner parties. I'd gone a different route. After Leo, I finished my graphic design degree, started my own small business. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and let me work from home for Chloe. My father never understood why I insisted on independence. He saw it as a personal affront. The phone rang again. His name. I let it ring out. 30 seconds later, it rang again. I stepped out into the hallway, not daring to go far from Chloe's room. I answered. He didn't wait for me to speak. "Where the hell have you been?" His voice was cold, clipped. "Do you have any idea what you've put your mother through?" "Dad," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Chloe is in intensive care. She has bacterial meningitis." "I told you. I know what you told us," he interrupted, utterly dismissive. "But Brooke's engagement party is tomorrow evening. We're setting up the venue in the morning." Your mother has been planning this for months. You were supposed to be there at 8 a.m. to handle the decorations. Brooke is frantic. I pressed my fingers against my temple. A searing headache was building. Dad, I can't leave the hospital. Chloe might not make it. Do you understand what I'm saying? A pause. A beat of silence where I dared to hope for empathy. Then, there are nurses and doctors there. They don't need you hovering. Your family needs you here. Something inside me snapped. A quiet, furious crack. Chloe is my family. She's your granddaughter. Don't use that tone with me. His voice dropped to that dangerous register I remembered from childhood. The one that meant absolute defiance. You have responsibilities. Brooke has been looking forward to this party for months. All of her friends will be there. Ryan's family. This is important. More important than Chloe's life. The words were out before I could stop them, laced with incredulity and white-hot anger. That's not what I said. Stop being dramatic. Chloe is getting excellent care. You being there or not being there isn't going to change anything. But you not being here is going to ruin Brooke's event. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm not leaving my daughter. The silence that followed was arctic, colder than any ICU. When my father spoke again, his voice was flat. Final. Then I think we need to have a serious conversation about priorities. I've been supporting you financially. You gave me a loan for my business 2 years ago. I've been paying you back every month. My voice was trembling, but my resolve was hardening. And I've helped with Chloe's private school tuition, her medical insurance, all of it. If you can't be there for this family when it matters, then maybe I need to reconsider that support. My blood ran cold. Was he serious? Are you seriously threatening to cut me off because I won't leave my critically ill daughter to set up a party? I'm telling you that actions have consequences. You're being selfish. Brooke needs her sister, and you're choosing to sit in a hospital where you're not even needed instead of being there for her. The anger that surged through me wasn't destructive. It was clarifying. Then cut me off. Another pause. Excuse me. You heard me. If that's the choice you're giving me, leave my daughter who might die, or lose your financial support, then I choose Chloe every single time. Cut me off. I don't care. You'll care when you can't make rent. When Chloe's schools come due. I'll figure it out. I've been supporting myself just fine. The business loan was almost paid off anyway, and Chloe's insurance is through my business plan. You helped with extras, with private school, but we'll manage without it. You're making a huge mistake. His voice was pure ice. Don't come crying to me when reality hits. I won't. Goodbye, Dad. I hung up before he could respond, my hands shaking uncontrollably. I stood in that sterile hallway for a moment, trying to process the magnitude of what had just happened. Then, I walked back into Chloe's room. Brenda looked up, her expression concerned. Everything okay? She asked gently. I sat down, taking Chloe's small, warm hand in mine. It will be, I whispered, and I meant it. On the 5th day, Chloe's fever finally broke. The antibiotics were working. On the 6th, she squeezed my hand when I spoke to her. On the 7th, they reduced her sedation, and by evening, she was breathing well enough on her own that they removed the ventilator. On the 8th day, she opened her eyes and said, "Mommy," in a raspy voice that made me burst into tears of pure relief and joy. Over the next week, as Chloe recovered, my phone became a battlefield. My mother called, crying, begging me to apologize to my father. The engagement party had gone forward without me. They'd scrambled to hire someone who handled decorations. Brooke sent increasingly hostile messages about how I nearly ruined her special day, about how the decorators used the wrong shade of blush pink, and several centerpieces were positioned incorrectly. Aunt Carol left voicemails about how disappointed the whole family was, how I'd embarrassed them in front of Ryan's family. I ignored all of it. Chloe grew stronger each day, her laughter slowly returning to the quiet hospital room. 2 weeks after my father's ultimatum, after Chloe had finally come home, a certified letter arrived from his attorney. He was calling in the business loan immediately. The entire remaining balance of $23,000 was due within 30 days. The letter also informed me that all other financial support was terminated, including Chloe's private school tuition. I sat at my kitchen table that night after Chloe, weak but home, had fallen asleep in her own bed. I looked at the letter, then at my bank balance. I'd borrowed $35,000 2 years ago, making $600 payments monthly. I had maybe $8,000 in savings. My business covered our basic expenses, but not a lump sum like that. This was punishment. This was him showing me what happened when I defied him. The next morning, I called David Chun, an attorney I knew from a networking group. He looked over the letter, frowning. "This is aggressive," he said. "The original loan agreement had a 5-year payment plan. He can't just change the terms unilaterally." "It was a family loan," I said, my voice heavy. "I don't think we had anything formal drawn up beyond a promissory note." David pulled up the note I brought. He read through it carefully. "Actually, this is pretty clear. 5-year term at 2% interest. You've been making regular payments." He'd need cause to call it early, and even then, he'd have to give you reasonable time. He looked up at me. "I can respond on your behalf, remind him of the terms, and offer to continue the payment plan. If he refuses, we can take it to court." "That would destroy what's left of my family relationships," I said, a bitter laugh escaping me. "I think your father already did that." David's voice was kind but firm. "You can't let him bully you like this." David sent the letter. My father's response came through his attorney 2 weeks later. He was suing me for the full balance plus legal fees. He claimed I had breached the agreement by missing a payment. It wasn't true. I had bank records showing every single payment. But it didn't matter. He was escalating. "This is going to get expensive," David warned. "Even though we'll win, litigation costs money." I made a decision. I called Michelle, a colleague who'd been wanting to partner on larger projects. We'd talked about it before, but I'd been hesitant to expand. Now, I didn't have a choice. "I'm in," Michelle said immediately when I explained. "I've got some capital saved up. We can formalize the partnership, take on bigger clients, and scale up. You're talented enough that we should have done this years ago." Within a month, we were a full partnership. Michelle's $15,000 investment covered the immediate cash crunch. And with both of us working full-time on client acquisition, we landed 3 major contracts. The money started coming in. Not enough to be comfortable yet, but enough to breathe again. Chloe had to transfer to public school. I dreaded telling her, worried she'd be upset about leaving her friends. Instead, she shrugged and said the kids at private school were kinda mean anyway. She thrived at her new school, made friends quickly, and seemed happier than she'd been in years. The lawsuit dragged on for 6 months. My father refused every settlement offer, insisting he wanted his money immediately. David advised patience. "He's spending more than the loan is worth in legal fees," he said. "He'll have to drop it eventually." But my father wasn't rational about this. This was about control, about making me pay for defying him. The family had closed ranks against me. Brooke posted pictures from her engagement party on social media. It had looked beautiful despite my absence and the alleged flower mishap. She captioned one photo, "Surrounded by people who actually show up when it matters." I blocked her after that. I blocked my mother, too, after she sent a long email about how I'd broken my father's heart and destroyed the family. Aunt Carol got the same treatment after she showed up at my house unannounced to lecture me about respecting your elders. The isolation was hard. These were people I'd known my entire life. And suddenly, I was the villain in their story. But every night when I tucked Chloe into bed, when I saw her smile and heard her laugh, I knew I'd made the right choice. By the way, if you're still with me, still shaking your head at this whole mess, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button. More unbelievable stories are coming. And honestly, your support means the world to me. 8 months after the ICU, the business had grown substantially. Michelle and I were hiring our first employee. We paid off the legal fees and started setting aside money for Chloe's college fund. Life was harder in some ways. Longer hours, more stress, less financial cushion, but it was ours. Nobody could threaten to take it away. The lawsuit finally went to court, just a motion hearing, not a full trial. It took exactly 20 minutes for the judge to review the promissory note, look at my payment records, and dismiss my father's case with prejudice. He ordered my father to pay my legal fees, about $12,000 by that point. I didn't hear from him after that. No apology, no acknowledgement, just silence. Then, almost 10 months to the day after Chloe got sick, I received a wedding invitation. Brooke was getting married to Ryan in June. The engagement party had been just the beginning. The invitation was formal, expensive, embossed with gold lettering. My name was on it, along with guest. There was a handwritten note inside from my mother. "Please come. Let's put this behind us." Brooke would love to have her sister there. I stared at the invitation for a long time. Part of me, The lonely part that missed holiday dinners and inside jokes and shared history wanted to go. Wanted my family back. But then I thought about that phone call in the hospital hallway. I thought about my father saying Chloe's life mattered less than party decorations. I thought about the lawsuit, the way they'd all turned on me, the sheer cruelty of it. I threw the invitation in the trash. Chloe was doing great. She joined the school art club and discovered a talent for painting. She'd made a best friend named Olivia who came over every weekend. Chloe was healthy and happy and thriving. And she'd done it without my father's money or his approval. I sent a brief email to my mother. I won't be attending. I hope Brooke has a beautiful wedding. The response came within an hour. All hurt feelings and accusations. How could I be so cruel? Brooke had forgiven me. Why was I holding a grudge? Family was supposed to forgive and move on. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. They still didn't understand, or didn't want to understand, that this wasn't about grudges or pettiness. This was about a father who'd valued a party over his granddaughter's life. This was about a family that had demanded I abandon my child when she needed me most. Some things you don't come back from. The business continued growing. By the end of the second year, Michelle and I had 5 employees and were turning away clients. We moved into a small office downtown. Chloe even had her own desk there, where she did homework after school, surrounded by creative chaos and the hum of productive energy. She turned 9 that spring, healthy and vibrant, with no lasting effects from the meningitis. I dated occasionally, though nothing serious. Most of my energy went into Chloe and the business. We had dinner with Michelle's family every few weeks. Chloe called Michelle Aunt Jen and adored Michelle's husband and their 2 kids. Olivia was over constantly. They were inseparable, always drawing or building elaborate forts. We built our own family, chosen rather than born. Sometimes I'd see my parents at community events. Our city wasn't that big. They'd look away, pretend they hadn't seen me. Once I ran into Brooke at the grocery store. She was pregnant, glowing, shopping for organic produce. She saw me, and her face went cold. "Chloe looks well," she said, nodding toward where Chloe was comparing cereal boxes. Public school must be fine for some people. The dig was obvious, cutting. I just smiled. "She's thriving. Thank you for asking." Brooke's mouth tightened. "You know, you're not the only one who suffered. You tore this family apart." "No," I said calmly, my voice steady. "I chose my daughter over a party. Dad tore the family apart when he decided that was unforgivable. You're so self-righteous." Her voice was bitter. "You always thought you were better than the rest of us." "I never thought that," I countered, my resolve unwavering. "I just thought my daughter's life was more important than your decorations." Apparently, that was controversial. She left without another word, her cart squeaking on the linoleum. Chloe came over with her cereal choice, oblivious to the tension. "Can we get this one? It has marshmallows." I looked at my daughter, healthy, happy, completely unaware of the drama that had once threatened to consume us both. "Sure, baby," I said. "We can get that one." 3 years after the ICU, I received another letter from my father. Not through an attorney this time, just a plain envelope with his handwriting. Chloe was 10 now, flourishing in 4th grade. The business was stable enough that I'd started thinking about buying a house. I almost threw the letter away unopened. My curiosity won out. It wasn't an apology. It was an announcement. My mother, Helen, had been diagnosed with cancer. Stage 3, treatable, but serious. The letter was brief, factual. There was a phone number at the bottom. Nothing else. I sat with that letter for days. Chloe asked what was wrong, and I told her Grandma Helen was sick. Chloe had vague memories of my parents. They'd been part of her early childhood before Leo died, before everything changed. But she hadn't seen them since she was 7, since the ICU. "Should we visit her?" Chloe asked, her brow furrowed. "You always tell me family is important, and Grandma Helen is family, right?" Out of the mouths of children. I'd worked so hard to teach Chloe about love and forgiveness and doing the right thing. Now she was reflecting those lessons back at me. I called the number. My father answered. "It's me," I said. Silence. Then, "Your mother would like to see you." Not "I'd like to see you." Not "I'm sorry." Just a simple statement. "How is she doing?" "She starts chemotherapy next week. The prognosis is good, but it'll be rough." More silence. The conversation felt like walking on broken glass. "Can I visit her?" I asked finally. "This weekend. Saturday afternoon. Come alone. I'm bringing Chloe. She's your granddaughter. and she wants to see her grandmother. Fine. He hung up. Saturday afternoon, I drove to my parents' house with Chloe in the passenger seat. She was nervous, picking at her fingernails, a habit she developed during stressful times. The house looked the same. Perfectly maintained lawn, fresh paint, expensive cars in the driveway. Brooke's SUV was there. Of course it was. My mother answered the door. She'd lost weight, looked frielier than I remembered. Her face, when she saw Chloe, was complicated. Joy and guilt, and something else I couldn't name. "Chloe," she breathed. "You've gotten so tall." "Hi, Grandma." Chloe's voice was small. We went inside. The house smelled like vanilla and old wood, familiar in a way that made my chest ache. Brooke was in the living room with her son, Max, who just turned 2. He was a beautiful child with dark curls and Ryan's eyes. She stiffened when she saw me. "Mom didn't tell me you were coming." "Surprise," I said flatly. My father appeared from his study. He looked older, too, more gray in his hair, deeper lines around his mouth. He barely glanced at me before focusing on Chloe. "Chloe, you look healthy." "I am healthy," Chloe said with the blunt honesty of children. "I almost died, but Mom saved me." The room went silent. My mother's eyes filled with tears. "We know, sweetheart," she said softly. "We're so glad you're okay." The visit was awkward, strained. We sat in the formal living room, the one that had always been off limits when Brooke and I were kids, making stilted conversation. My mother asked about Chloe's school, her hobbies, her friends. Chloe answered politely, but without enthusiasm. She could feel the tension, even if she didn't understand it. Brooke kept shooting me hostile looks. Max played on the floor with expensive wooden toys, occasionally bringing them to his grandmother to admire. Nobody mentioned the lawsuit. Nobody mentioned the engagement party or the wedding I hadn't attended. Nobody acknowledged the 3 years of silence. After an hour, I made our excuses. My mother walked us to the door. "Thank you for coming," she said. "It means a lot. I hope the treatment goes well." She touched my arm, tentative. "Can you visit again? I know things have been difficult, but I'd like to see Chloe, to see both of you." I looked at her, truly looked at her. She was sick and scared and probably lonely, but she'd stood by while my father sued me. She'd sent those guilt-laden emails and voicemails. She'd chosen sides, and it hadn't been mine. "I'll think about it," I said. Chloe was quiet on the drive home. "Finally," she said. "They're different than I remember." "How so?" "I don't know, cold, I guess." "Are you sad?" I thought about it. "A little, honey, but mostly I'm okay. I like our life better," Chloe said, "with Aunt Michelle and Olivia in our apartment. It feels warmer." "Yeah, baby. Me, too." I did visit my mother again a few more times over the following months as she went through treatment. Chloe came sometimes. Sometimes I went alone. My father was usually absent, shut away in his study. Brooke never warmed up. Our interactions remained chilly and brief. My mother tried in her way to rebuild something. She asked about the business, complimented Chloe, made tentative overtures. But she never apologized. None of them did. They seemed to think time alone would heal everything, that I should simply forget and move on because family was family. But I couldn't forget. Every time I sat in that living room, I remembered sitting in the ICU, watching my daughter struggle to breathe, and hearing my father say I wasn't needed there. I remembered the lawsuit, the deliberate cruelty of it. I remembered Brooke's social media posts and Aunt Carol's lectures and my mother's guilt trips. They wanted reconciliation without accountability. They wanted me back in the family fold without acknowledging what they'd done to push me out. After my mother finished treatment successfully, thank God, the visits became less frequent. She was in remission, healthy again, and the crisis that had prompted the reconnection was over. We drifted back into separation. But this time, it felt more like a conscious choice than an open wound. I heard through Aunt Carol's Facebook, before I blocked her, that Brooke had her second child, a daughter named Avery. Chloe turned 11, starting 5th grade with confidence and enthusiasm. She joined a school art club and discovered a real talent for watercolors. Olivia was still her closest friend, and they'd added 2 more girls to their tight-knit group. Then, Chloe turned 12 and started middle school at the local junior high. The business opened a second office in a neighboring city. I started dating someone seriously, a teacher named Mark, who was patient and kind and good with Chloe. Life moved forward. One day, I got a Facebook message from a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years, my father's brother's daughter, Natalie. She'd moved to California long ago and had never been close with my parents. Her message was brief. Hey, heard you got disowned for staying with your sick kid. Wanted you to know I think you're a badass. Family isn't everything, especially when family is toxic. Keep doing you. It shouldn't have meant so much, but it did. That small validation from someone who understood the family dynamics, who saw through it, helped in ways I hadn't expected. I wrote back, thank you. That means more than you know. She responded, I cut off Uncle Arthur years ago. He tried to run my life, too. Some people think love means control. They don't. We started talking regularly after that. Natalie became a friend, an ally, someone who got it. She built her own life, too. Far from family expectations and demands, she was thriving. 5 years after the ICU, 5 years after my father's ultimatum, I bought a house. 3 bedrooms, a backyard, in a good school district. The business had done well enough that I could afford it outright. No mortgage. Chloe was 12, excited about having her own bathroom. Mark had moved in with us by then, and we were talking about marriage. I didn't tell my parents about the house. They found out through the cousin grapevine. Small town. Everyone knows everything. Eventually, my mother called. I heard you bought a house, she said. That's wonderful, honey. Thank you. I'd love to see it sometime. We could bring a housewarming gift. I looked around my new kitchen, at Chloe's artwork on the refrigerator and Mark's coffee mug on the counter. This was my space, my sanctuary. I didn't want my parents' judgment or criticism or passive-aggressive comments tainting it. Maybe someday, I said noncommittally. You can't stay angry forever, my mother said, an edge of frustration creeping into her voice. Your father made mistakes, but... Mom, I'm not angry. I'm just done. There's a difference. That's not fair. Neither was asking me to leave my dying daughter to set up a party, but here we are. She was quiet for a moment. You're never going to forgive us, are you? I don't know. Maybe forgiveness isn't the point. Maybe the point is that I've built a good life without you, and I don't need you to validate it anymore. That's cruel. No, Mom. Cruel was what Dad did. This is just honesty. I hung up gently. It felt final in a way previous conversations hadn't. Not angry, not bitter, just finished. Chloe thrived. She made it through middle school with good grades and great friends. Her group had expanded to include Olivia and 3 other girls who were practically fixtures at our house. She talked about becoming an artist or maybe a doctor. She couldn't decide if she wanted to create or heal. She was confident and kind, and so beautifully herself. Mark and I got married when Chloe was 14. A small ceremony, just close friends. Chloe is maid of honor. Michelle and her family. A few colleagues. Chloe's friends, Olivia and the others. Cousin Natalie flew in from California. My parents weren't invited. I'd wondered if I'd feel guilty about that, but I didn't. I felt peaceful. The people in that room were the ones who'd stood by me, who'd supported Chloe, who'd chosen to be family regardless of blood. That mattered more than DNA. Brooke had another baby, a daughter this time. I knew because Aunt Carol posted pictures on Facebook before I blocked her. Brooke's children would grow up never knowing their cousin Chloe. That was sad, but it was also just reality. Some bridges, once burned, stay burned. Chloe asked about my parents occasionally, less as she got older. By high school, they were just abstract figures in her history, people she barely remembered. She had her own life, her own relationships. She didn't need grandparents who'd never chosen her. The business eventually grew large enough that Michelle and I hired a CEO to manage operations while we focused on creative direction. We built something real, something lasting. Every success felt like proof that my father had been wrong. I didn't need his money or his approval to survive. I'd done it myself. On the 10-year anniversary of Chloe's ICU stay, she was 17 and applying to colleges. We went out to dinner to celebrate her health, her survival, everything that had happened since. Mark and Michelle came too, and Olivia, Chloe's best friend, who'd been there through it all. Mom, Chloe said over dessert, her eyes shining. I never thanked you properly for what you did. What do you mean, honey? For choosing me. I know it cost you a lot. Your family, money, everything. But you never wavered. You stayed with me. My eyes burned. That wasn't a choice, baby. That was just love. I know, but I'm old enough now to understand what you gave up. And I want you to know it mattered. It made me who I am. She had turned into this incredible young woman, strong and compassionate, and fiercely independent. Everything I'd hoped she'd be. You would have been. Incredible no matter what, I said. But I'm glad I got to be there to see it. We toasted with our glasses. Sparkling cider for Chloe and Olivia. Wine for the adults. To survival, I said. To choices that matter. To love that shows up when it counts. Later that night, after everyone had gone home and Chloe was asleep, I sat in my backyard looking at the stars. Mark came out and handed me a cup of tea. You okay? He asked. Yeah, just thinking about the last 10 years, how different everything is. Better or different? I thought about my father's threat, how terrified I'd been in that moment, how certain he'd been that I'd crumble without his support. I thought about proving him wrong, about building something from nothing, about Chloe's smile across the dinner table tonight. So much better, I said. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Brooke. I'm getting divorced. Could really use my sister right now. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me, the part that remembered being kids together, sharing secrets, being close, wanted to respond, wanted to offer comfort. But I remembered everything else, too. The cruelty, the judgment, the way she'd sided with our father without question, the years of silence, the casual comment in the grocery store about public school being fine for some people. I deleted the message without responding. Maybe that made me cold. Maybe it made me unforgiving, but it also made me honest. Some doors, once closed, should stay closed. Chloe got accepted to her first choice college with a partial scholarship. The rest we could cover with savings and minimal loans. She wanted to study biomedical engineering. She decided she wanted to heal people after all. Because of what happened to me, she explained. I want other kids to have a chance like I did. The day we dropped her off at college, I cried the whole drive home. Mark held my hand and let me be emotional. That night, the house felt too quiet. My phone rang. My mother's number. I'd kept it saved, though I couldn't remember the last time we'd spoken. I let it ring out. She left a voicemail. I know you probably won't call back, her voice said, tired and old. But I heard about Chloe going to college. I'm proud of her, and I'm proud of you. Even if I never said it, you are a good mother, better than I was. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't enough, but it was something. I saved the voicemail. I didn't call back. Years continued passing. Chloe came home for holidays, brought friends, later brought boyfriends. The business kept growing. Mark and I traveled, saw the world, built a life that felt full and complete without the people who'd once defined family for me. Sometimes I'd drive past my parents' house. The lawn was still perfectly maintained. Brooke's SUV was often there. She'd moved back in after her divorce. Apparently, life had humbled her, I suppose, the way it humbles everyone eventually. I never stopped, never felt the pull to reconcile. People thought that made me bitter, but I wasn't. I was just clear about what I needed and what I didn't. I needed people who showed up. I needed people who understood that love meant sacrifice, not ultimatums. I needed people who chose a child in the ICU over party decorations every single time. My parents weren't those people. That was sad, but it was also okay. I grieved the family I'd wanted them to be. Now, I just lived with the family I'd chosen instead. Chloe's son, Lucas, who is 10 years old, asked me once why he didn't have great-grandparents like his friends did. It's complicated, I told him. Sometimes families break apart. It's sad, but it happens. Were they mean to you? He asked, his young eyes searching mine. They made choices I couldn't accept. And I made choices they couldn't accept. Neither of us would budge. But you were right, he said with the absolute certainty of childhood. Grandma Chloe told me. You stayed with her when she was sick and your dad got mad. That's crazy. Of course, you stayed with her. Of course, I agreed, pulling him into a hug. I'm glad you stayed with Grandma Chloe, he murmured. Otherwise, she might have died, and then Mom wouldn't be here, and then I wouldn't be here. Me too, buddy. Me too. Looking back across the decades, from that fluorescent-lit hospital room to this beach condo, filled with family photos and children's laughter, I knew I'd do it all exactly the same. Every hard choice, every burned bridge, every moment of standing alone. Because those choices had led here, to this life, to these people who showed up when it mattered. My father's ultimatum had been meant to bring me to heel, to force compliance through financial threat. Instead, it had freed me. It had shown me exactly who they were and exactly who I needed to be. I chose Chloe. I chose myself. I chose a future built on love, not obligation. That choice echoed through everything that came after. Building momentum, creating possibility, opening doors I hadn't known existed. The door to my parents' house had closed, but so many other doors had opened instead. Better doors. Doors that led to authenticity and dignity and fierce, unconditional love. I walked through those doors and never looked back. That wasn't cruelty. That was survival. That was wisdom. That was choosing life over obligation, love over control, freedom over fear. Chloe lived. She thrived. She became extraordinary. And I got to witness all of it. Got to be there for every moment because I'd refused to leave her side for anything or anyone. That was worth everything I'd lost. Worth everything I'd given up. Worth every single consequence of that one simple choice. This journey taught me that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the most beautiful lives. If you've ever faced a moment where you had to choose between staying true to yourself and the expectations of your family, what did you choose, and how did it change your life? I really want to hear your stories in the comments below. Let's talk about it.